Call the meeting to order. This is the regular scheduled meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge. Today is Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. Time now is 7:30 p.m. Let me begin by reading the following statement. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic and is in compliance with the provisions of Executive Orders 103 and 104, the Open Public Meetings Act, and associated regulations. Notice of this meeting was published in the Ridgewood News and the Bergen Record on December 23rd, 2020 and January 1st, 2021, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. A copy of the agenda for this meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address prior to making a public comment. Members of the public were permitted to submit written comments prior to the meeting via mail or email, which will be read during the public comment period. With that, I will turn to Marina and ask her to call the roll, please.
Okay, Mr. Mayor? Oh,
It's on mute.
he's on mute, but he is here.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Mr. Caslin,
I'm here.
Mr. Merman,
Here.
Mr. Arkelian,
Here.
Ms. Boland,
Here.
Mr. Gibbons,
Here.
Mr. Grasso,
Here.
Mr. Cray,
Here.
Councilman Kinigo.
Present.
Okay, Mr. Pfeffer,
Here.
Mr. Esposito.
Here.
Okay, and also present is Mr. Behrens, the planner.
All right. The first item on the agenda is we don't have minutes to review for last week, so let's turn to the memorializations. First memorialization up is Killam Mediterranean, 645 Kinderkamack Road, Block 614, Lot 8.02 for a food handler's license. Any comments, any questions regarding the resolution? Oh. Being none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Gibbons.
May I have a
Second, Merman.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstained?
Ms. Boland was absent
Yes.
at the meeting, so.
I abstain.
Okay. The next item on for memorialization is Susan Eng, 916 Poplar Avenue, Block 108, Lot 11, for a proposed addition, lot coverage, and height variances. Any comments on this resolution?
I have a question about it. Forgive me because I'm the new guy, so maybe my question is naive, but I appreciate any education on this that I can get. I recall, and I also noticed that it's in the resolution, that during the public comment period, Ms. Eng was asked about who would be living in her house. And you know, she didn't object to that question. She answered it immediately, and nobody had any problem with it at the time. But I'm just wondering, as a matter of policy, whether that's something that should be incorporated into something like a resolution. The reason why I'm asking is because it's not really a requirement, at least in this type of application. It's not a requirement necessarily to know who's going to be living in the house. I guess if it had some bearing on the use of the property or the size of the property, but the questioner during the public meeting just explained that she was asking because the prior owner had some, disruptive or unruly people living in the house. And so that's why she was asking who's going to be living there. So again, I mean, Ms. Eng didn't have a problem with the question and she answered it right away, but I'm just wondering if we should put that kind of information in the resolution when it really doesn't have a bearing on the validity of the application.
Well, I think the point was just to sort of acknowledge the fact that that question was asked. I don't know if it's necessarily taken a position one way or the other. Marina, I don't know if you've.
Yeah, that's why I included it in the resolution, just to include it as part of the record. But if you'd like to remove it from the resolution, that's fine, since it didn't have a bearing on the decision of the board.
We don't really have a say whether she rents it or sells it or moves in anyway, right?
Right.
She can do whatever she wants.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what my feeling was about it was, since she could do whatever she wants as long as it's legal. She didn't say she was going to rent it out to the circus or something like that. So I just think for privacy reasons, the fact that she's going to be living there with her 3 children, I don't know. I don't necessarily feel comfortable, as long as it's not a direct relevant bearing on the application. I think in certain instances, it's probably wise to not include that kind of information in a public resolution.
And we couldn't have considered it. We couldn't have considered it anyway as part of our decision-making process. So it should have no.
Right. I don't think the board would have jurisdiction to make that decision. It almost sounds like something that would have to be a deed restriction in the property, which, because a very fine line, what's legal and what's illegal when you put it, something like
be
that.
Discussing such things. The public asked the question. It wasn't the board that asked the question.
Right.
And
Exactly.
It didn't have any bearing on our decision. So I agree with Mr. Pfeffer.
Okay, would you like to amend the resolution? I can strike that from the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah.
Second.
I'll second.
I would say so.
Oh,
Okay. So with that
Mr. Chairman,
modification- Yes, sir.
Dick Berman here. Question for Marina. Did I hear you when you described the variances requested that there was a height variance? I think you included the word a height variance.
Did
don't-
Oh.
Yeah, there is none on this one. It's just plain lot
No.
coverage.
I think one of the issues was that there originally was a height variance, and that may have been on my letter of denial, and that was amended at some point. So that may be
Okay.
where that came from.
So there is no height variance. Correct, okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
They never came to this board asking for one.
Okay.
Okay.
So with the one modification discussed, can I, just for clarity, can we have a motion to approve the resolution with that modification? I think Councilman, you had made that motion. Okay, can we have a second?
Correct. Yep.
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? I think Ms. Boland, you were absent. so-
Yes, I abstain.
Okay.
Chris, I'm not sure that you might need a roll call on that because there is an attendance sheet attached to the resolution. Marina?
Marina, do we need a roll call?
If you'd like to do a roll call, that's fine, but I marked the abstention, so. it'll be-
Okay, all right, as long as you have it.
Okay, excuse me. The next resolution up for approval is the resolution appointing the professionals for 2021. First item is the resolution appointing Burgess Associates as Municipal Land Use Board Planner for 2021. Any comments, questions on this resolution? All right, we have a motion to approve.
Move, Mike Gray.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain? Okay, I think just Ms. Boland again on that one is absent.
It's
Okay.
a lot of resolutions.
Yeah.
You missed a busy night.
Yes.
Next item is a resolution appointing Cleary, Jacoby, Alfieri, Jacobs LLC as Municipal Land Use Board Attorney for 2021. Any comments, questions on this resolution? All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain?
Dane.
Ms. Boland, abstain? Okay. Last resolutions for this evening. Resolution appointing Costa Engineering Corporation as Municipal Land Use Board Engineer for 2021. Any comments, questions on this resolution? All right, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Thurman, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstain?
Abstain.
All right. All right. Next item up for this evening, we have a completeness review for McElroy, 168 Concord Drive, Block 605, Lot 12. Proposed building addition of the front porch, front yard setback, and lot coverage variances. Looks like the applicant is in the audience this evening. Good evening, Mr. McElroy.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so at this point, nothing to do for you. We'll just we'll turn to Ms. Stinley.
Prior to this meeting, I reviewed the proofs submitted by the applicant, and they are sufficient to permit the board to have jurisdiction to review the application tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Behrens?
I've also reviewed the application materials and determined them to be sufficient to be heard this evening.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay. May I have a motion to approve completeness?
So moved. Gibbons.
May I have a second?
Second. Great.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Caslin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Kellion,
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Grosso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Keenega,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
and Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay,
All right. So with that, we will move on to new business, which is the only business, which is McElroy, 168 Concord Drive, Block 605, Lot 12. Proposed building addition of front porch, front yard setback, and lot coverage variances. Good evening again, Mr. McElroy.
Mr. Caslin, good evening. How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Good. Do you have somebody who will be appearing with you this evening in support of your application?
I have my contractor, Mark Bernardi, has joined us in case questions come up that I can't answer that are appropriate for him. But other than that, it's just myself.
Okay, very good. Marina?
okay, so Mr. McElroy, if you could just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you please state your name for the record, spell your last name, and provide us your address?
Sure. It's Michael C. McElroy, spelled MC capital ELROY. And I reside at 168 Concord Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so Mr. McElroy, for the board's benefit, would you just provide a brief summary of your application and the work you're proposing to do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. If it's appropriate, I'd like to share my screen also, just to spend a brief moment to show a couple pictures of things. Would that be all right?
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, great. Before we do that, I'm here seeking variance relief because I'd like to put a front porch in front of my house. As you see in the design, it's kind of like a half a porch. Really what I envision practically are 2 chairs and a table, essentially. First of all, I've lived in town for 22 years or so, very active member of the community, lots of kids. In fact, that's part of the reason why it'd be nice to have somewhere else to go as an inside my house, is lots of people learning here and my wife and daughter teaching here and I'm working here and I'm envious of being able to go outside other than on my deck. But I currently run the CYO basketball program up at St. Peter's, which in itself is a full-time job for which I'm not paid. But I think my point is I love this town. I give back to this town. And I'm looking to put a little, money into my house. I moved here to this particular home maybe 12 years ago or so. What was really appealing to us, it was done. I didn't have to do anything. We really haven't, other than minor things, nothing like physically done to the house. So we want to put some money into the house, invest in our property. I think it'll look really nice. I think it'll make our neighborhood brighten up a bit too. And I have a couple of examples. I'd just like to show you again briefly. I won't overdo this. Just in my immediate neighborhood, this is a beautiful home that's kind of across the street and 4 houses up Concord. This family put this in a few years ago. Mine will be a fraction of this. Mine will end, if you can see my cursor kind of here, with that 2-seat and table idea. So the point of this picture, this is a beautiful porch. It really did a nice job brightening up the neighborhood. And of course, it makes their house look awesome and increases the value of their home. Very aesthetically pleasing porch. This is another.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just for the record, I'm going to mark these photographs as Exhibit A1 and just ask that the applicant send the photos to the board clerk, Mr. Alter.
Oh, great.
You
Yes.
can just send it by email.
Yep, thank you.
Apologies if I should have done that prior. It's my first rodeo here. So
No problem.
this-
Please continue.
just another example. Across Elm, about 5 houses up. My porch won't look like this. This isn't really the style I'm going for, but it's just another example in the immediate neighborhood of a porch. I mean, we all live in town. We know there's porches throughout town. This is the Buckley's house behind me in Greenway. Just a really beautiful addition to their home and to their property. And I just took a couple pictures of houses like right around my house, like right on Concord, a few houses around me, only because what I'm looking to do is make it fit within the neighborhood. And this kind of arc design here that is very common for like a portico, for example, is what we're going to be incorporating onto my porch. So what I'm doing isn't going to be much different than kind of the feel of the neighborhood and what you see right now. And that's the only point I was trying to emphasize by this. We're trying to build something that we love and that we'll get value from and will, maximize my property, my house, but build something that really fits within the neighborhood and that people are comfortable with. Those are the point of those photos. Mr. Caslin, I have some photos of my own home. Would it be appropriate to kind of show the board kind of the current layout, or is there another time for that? And should I pause?
No, you can do that now.
Okay, cool. So this is the current, this is my house from the sidewalk. So what I'm asking you to consider approving is for a front porch that will go kind of from the mailbox or to the left of the door, the right, right here by the doorbell, all the way over to the driveway. So that's kind of like what we're looking to do, kind of the half porch theme. This is a closer look at this porch. So currently, this all sits on slabs of concrete that will be removed as part of this process. I put the 2 chairs out there just so you can kind of visualize kind of like, what we're looking to do. So we would have nicer chairs than these deck chairs I have, but I envision a table in between kind of thing. Just to give you a visual of the side of the house, this would come out, as you see, I'm asking for your consideration for 6 feet of space. I asked that because that 6 feet of space would take me midway to this bottom stair here, which obviously would allow for, someone to get by another person. Thus the ask for the 6 feet. But just to give you a visual of kind of how far that would potentially come out upon your approval, we're talking like midway through that bottom step. And this is just another angle at it, which kind of is the same picture as my last one. So apologies there. But the porch would end at my driveway right on this roof line, kind of like where the flagpole is. And that's a summary of what it looks like now, and if you can visualize what it would look like upon your approval.
Okay. Mr. McAvoy, if you could go ahead and just stop sharing your screen for the moment. Great. Thank you. Mr. Behrens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I guess I just have a few points to add in addition to Mr. McElroy's comments. So as we observed, it is a developed lot with a dwelling, driveway, and all the typical features that we would see in a typical residential neighborhood in River Edge. I think the point was valid in that there would be some level of consistency in constructing some type of portico or porch on this dwelling. I noticed that it does not have a portico like many of the other dwellings do. So I think there is some value both functionally and aesthetically having some covering over the front door, as well as expanding and having some level of porch area in front to sit and hang out on. I don't think the board has had several porch applications in the recent past. And the reason this rose to the level of required variance relief is that there is an exemption of 35 square feet and up to a projection of 5 feet from the front of the dwelling that people can put on really would accommodate a portico on the front of the house that it could project into the front yard. In this case, it goes slightly beyond that. It goes to about a depth of 6 feet or a front yard setback of 24.7 feet, where 30 feet is required. In order to have a porch on this house, you really need to go beyond the front yard setback because the house is developed at the 30-foot threshold. So there's really no way around it. In terms of the other required variance relief, the proposed lot coverage is 1.2% over the maximum 25% coverage. That translates to about 86 square feet. And the impervious coverage variance is for 0.64% over the 35% maximum. And that translates to 46 square feet. And I will note that the porch will go in the area of existing impervious coverage, so it will not exacerbate that condition. It just happens to be a feature of the property for consideration. So in terms of addressing the variance relief and satisfying the statutory criteria, there's a few ways to look at it. One would be whether or not there's a hardship in that the house is situated where it is at the front setback line, and that to add on a porch, you would necessarily have to require variance relief for that. And we could also consider the public benefits of adding such a porch, from an aesthetic standpoint, and then compare those against any impacts and whether or not there are any in this case. From my standpoint, I think those would be negligible, and the relief being sought appears to be de minimis, but I will leave that up to the board. My last comment is just that the depth of the proposed deck of 6 feet is probably the minimum you could do to have a functioning porch. I called it a porch. So I think the 6 feet makes sense. Seemed to be an attractive enhancement to the neighborhood. So I'll leave it to the board for their comments.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. I'd like to open up to the board for questions. Why don't we start with Mr. Esposito?
Yes, I think what we're doing now is probably the right thing to do. I think it would enhance it and make it a very, very good place.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Grasso?
I think it would make the front of the house look much nicer, and I think the impervious lot coverage and the other lot coverage is what he's looking for a variance is extremely minimal. It's probably one of the lowest I can remember someone coming in with. So I have no objection to it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grasso. Mr. Gibbons?
No, looks like it's going to help the neighborhood. I know that block, and there's certainly plenty of nice houses with porches, and looks good to me. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pfeffer?
Yeah, I don't have an objection. I have a quick question though. I'm just curious whether the porch is going to sit on the slab that already exists there, or whether are you planning to demolish the slab? How is that going to work?
Yeah, Mark may want to comment on this, but Bruce will be removing the slab and the steps, and there'll be no more concrete there, as a result. That's the plan.
It'll be kind of a wood platform.
Yeah, Mark, what will that look like? I mean,
Mr. Bernardi, sorry, before you testified, could you just raise your hand? Yeah, could you just raise your hand? And do you affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And could you please state your name for the record, provide your address, and give the board some background on your experience, please?
Sure. Mark Bernardi, B-O-N-A-R-D-I. I reside at 324 Taft Road in River Edge. Been in the building business probably 45 years now. Started as a young man with my dad when I was a young guy. Been running this present business for 26 years. We do a lot of work here in town and all over Bergen County. The answer to your question regarding the existing concrete that's there now would have to be removed for the installation of the new footings to support the new deck area. And we're gonna, you know, when we remove that, we're gonna put a nice walkway from the new stairwell out to Mike's driveway as it is now. So yes, we're gonna have to remove that area to properly construct what we have to do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Arkelian.
I'm in agreement with most of the board so far. I love the front porch scenario for the homes here in River Edge. I think they add to the beauty of the town. And Michael, I'm excited for you to be able to that you'll be able to do that. So enjoy.
Thank you.
Ms. Boland?
I take no issues either and agree with everyone. I may have to recuse myself. Mr. Bernardi did do some work on my home, so I don't know if that's a conflict. That's all.
Okay.
He did a nice job on my porch.
I'm glad to hear that, actually.
Thank you, Eileen.
Mr. Cray?
No comments, and I'm in agreement with the rest of the board.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
I concur with the board. I have no comments.
Sir, Councilman?
Yes, sir. It's a no-brainer. Good luck with the new porch. It's going to look beautiful, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Merman?
I concur with the rest of the board, and I note that the requested variances are basically de minimis. I also would like to note that there was architectural plans submitted with the application, if there's any questions on the construction.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Merman. At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to open to the public.
So made, Merman.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Kaufman, do we have any?
We do not.
We do not. Okay. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to close to the public, please?
So made, Merman.
Koenigo, second.
You all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to entertain a motion on this application.
Dick Merman, I'll make a motion that the land use board regarding proposed front porch addition at 168 Concord Drive, block 605, lot 12, the 3 requested variances being de minimis, be approved.
Second.
Just, Mr. Chairman, on the motion, Ms. Finley?
Yeah.
Could you give us a ruling on Ms. Boland having to recuse herself? I don't believe this board has ever not allowed a member to vote because they had a vendor do some work on their property. If there was a personal gain involved or something like that, that's a different story. But I'd like you to rule on that so Ms. Boland knows if she can vote or not.
Ms. Boland can vote on the application, or she can choose to abstain if she would like.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Arkelian. Do we have a second on the?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Marina, can we have a roll call, please?
Okay. Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mr. Merman,
Yes.
Mr. Arkelian.
Yes.
Ms. Boland,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Cray,
Yes.
Councilman Kenigo,
Yes.
Mr. Pfeffer,
Yes.
Mr. Esposito.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Congratulations.
Hey,
Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. Very exciting. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Again,
Good luck,
For
Michael.
attending this evening too and helping Mr. McElroy along.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I have to depart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be
Well-
well.
I will.
Okay. So, Mr. McElroy, you don't have to stick around. If you can stick around if you'd like, you can leave. It's up to you at this point. A couple of minor items just to go through.
Yeah. Thank you all again for your time and your approval. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Mike.
Take care, Mike.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Couple of quick items, just for new business. Tom was able to get a draft annual report together, which he was able to circulate by email yesterday. Hopefully you all received it. Wasn't expecting you to have a chance to by this evening, so we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, give everybody a chance to have a look at it and provide any thoughts or comments that you might have. One other item that's kicking around, there is a review that is anticipated to be undertaken concerning the structure of escrow fees for the borough professionals in reviewing applications. Apparently the ordinance has not been updated in some time, so there is anticipated to be a review that will be undertaken. We may be asked to provide some input on any proposed amendments to that fee schedule. So that's on the horizon. And the last but not least, as the mayor pointed out at the start of the meeting, we will be moving next month to the second and fourth Wednesdays. So I know that Ed had circulated the revised calendar. So just make sure that that your calendars have all caught up with that change, since we will be making that shift as of next month.
Great.
Anything else from the floor? All right.
No.
No. Appreciate everybody's attendance this evening. Ms. Kaufman, thank you again for your technical assistance as always. And we will see everybody at the next meeting. May I have a motion to close, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All
bye.
right,
Great job,
everyone.
Chris.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Take care.
Take
Thank you
care.
all. Have a great
Bye-bye.
night.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.